Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wisdom Wednesday for this week. So remember, with our Wisdom Wednesday, this is just a generalized spiritual discussion based on the energies that we are currently working with. And usually with these, I'm just guided to a topic or a sentence that Spirit has just kind of given to me. And today was so beautiful because I didn't know if I was going to go live today. I always let Spirit decide if I'm going to go live or not. And today, I just wasn't sure if I was going to. I didn't have a topic. And then I had a friend call me. And this is how wonderful and amazing Spirit is and how it's always there to help guide us. And it goes perfectly into our topic for tonight. So this friend had called me. We were just having like a catch-up call, just kind of seeing, what's going on in each other's lives, as we normally do. And then as this friend was talking to me, this statement came through, and it had come through for another client as well, which is don't let the ego's decision or the ego's outcome overshadow the Spirit's purpose. And as we started talking, as I kind of started explaining like what I was getting, she was like, oh, this is so great and this is perfect and oh my gosh. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm going to talk about tonight. Because I just felt so inspired by it. I was like, I love this. I love this topic. And I think it goes great with our energies that we're working with for this week. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of stuff coming up. There's a lot of shadow stuff appearing, and there's a lot of opportunity for growth and movement and healing. But first, we have to be really clear and with our intentions and where it is we want to go. But before we get into any of that, let's start with our topic for tonight and really start diving into it. So, hi, Angela. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So, let's start with the first half of this sentence, right? So the ego's outcome or the ego's decision. The ego is that part of our mind that we have made. Now notice, I said that we made. We did not create it, because something that is created, or at least what I've learned, is if something is created, that's it. It is eternal. It's never going to change. That is, in essence, what it means to be eternal, is to be created. Because once you are created in the image and likeness of your Creator, and that's just it. You are changeless. Now, what's beautiful is we just made the ego, and the ego is nothing more than this idea that we could be separate from our source. That's it. That's all the ego really is. And I know we like to kind of pump up the ego and make it seem like it's this big thing that has so much power. The ego only has as much power as you're willing to give it. That's it. Because it is an idea in your mind that you made up. Hey, Helene, thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. That's all that the ego is. So the ego loves to, of course, it's all about separation. And so it only sees through a very narrow viewpoint. It's like looking through a keyhole when we are looking at the world through our ego. Okay? It's very narrow. And it only is looking for an outcome that it believes or it thinks that will bring it happiness. And a good majority of the time, if we're honest, and we have to be honest, especially on the spiritual journey, is a good majority of the time, the happiness that the ego is like wanting has to do with the body. Like my body feels good, or the body is feeling this, or the body that. And it's not to say that you don't take care of your body. It's not to say that you don't do loving things for your body. It is a vehicle for communication. That is what it is used for, at least by Spirit. But the ego, on the other hand, makes the body this thing that's like the doer of the world, the hero of the story. Oh, the body did this and the body did that. And look what I did. Instead of, look what came through me. Look what was able to be expressed in this moment. So the ego is always looking for the outcome that it, and The outcome that's going to please the body. And not only that, but the outcome that is going to, we'll say, serve it from a past perception, and it's only going to give you that temporary like happiness. It's only going to be like, oh, I'm temporarily happy. Like, I got the decision that I wanted, or I got the promotion I wanted. And if we're honest, again, which we have to be on the spiritual journey, we're like, okay, well, I got that outcome. Now what? Because the ego is always, always, always looking for that next high, that next happiness that's out here. This is where the ego says all my happiness is. It's out here in the world, and I have to go out there and I have to seek it, because if I don't seek that happiness, that's it. There's not going to be any happiness, which we understand from a spiritual perspective that all our happiness is within us. It is a vibration. It is a frequency that exists within us. And these things that we see outside of ourselves that do bring us happiness, that do bring us joy, are only there to activate that frequency, that vibration that's already in us. So this is where we really have to look at when we're looking at this standpoint of not letting the ego's outcome override the spirits. And you're going to see me look up, because I do have to like remember that, and for myself as well, to override the spirit's purpose. Now, let's talk about spirit. What is the spirit's purpose? Hi, Corey. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So what is the spirit's purpose for anything? The spirit's purpose for anything is always for healing. That is always what spirit is trying to do. It is helping you to heal. It is helping you. And when I say heal, it's helping you to heal your mind, helping you to heal your thoughts, helping you to heal past traumas and other things that you have been through. That's what it's helping you to do. If you are willing to let every situation be used by spirit instead of by your ego. Because again, if we let the ego take control of a situation, it's all going to be about me, mine, my separation and temporary happiness. And you can be guaranteed that if the ego is involved, there's going to be guilt, there's going to be blame, and there's going to be shame. And it may be projected out here onto another person. But again, if you are projecting that, well, where is that projection coming from? It's not coming from nowhere. It's coming from right here in our own minds. That's where that projection is coming from. So we are projecting our own ideas about guilt and blame and shame on a consistent basis. And we don't even realize it when we let the ego take control of a situation, or when we're just handing it over, being like, okay, I'm just going to go from knee-jerk reaction. Well, right now, when we have a reaction, that just means we're coming from that ego standpoint. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just we could say a unit of measurement to tell us, okay, if I'm responding, I'm aligned. If I'm reacting, I'm unaligned. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just that barometer to tell us, okay, this is currently who I am, or the part of my mind that I'm focused on. If I'm focused on reaction and projecting guilt, blame, shame, then I know I'm in my ego. And here's the thing I'm going to tell you, and it's a wonderful Marianne Williamson quote, and I will never forget it, because this person was on her, when she used to do Wednesday Lives in New York, and I think it was Wednesdays, I think it was Wednesday Lives. She used to do in New York, and she used to say, this woman had come forward and was like, oh, and this person was so in their ego. And she stopped and she was like, honey, she's like, let me tell you, she's like, if you're spotting someone else's ego, you got to believe you're in yours, because the ego only sees itself. So Corey writes, I feel like I have been blinding myself from a person and constant, the word disappointment, yet projecting it onto others maybe. Or is this still my ego? Well, if you feel like you are blinding yourself for a person and constantly, like the word disappointment, if you are you have to look at it and say, okay, like what is it that this disappoint, like if I'm feeling disappointed, great, wonderful. And I'm disappointed because again, the ego hates to be questioned. Because the ego will love to, number one, analyze itself, but it also hates when we start to really look for the truth. Because as we are starting that process, okay, why am I disappointed? Where is this disappointment coming from? And why am I allowing myself to continue to be in a situation in which I am not feeling that joy, feeling that excitement? What's stopping me from doing so? And again, that is, again, the ego, because the ego says, well, there might be, a pot of gold at the end of this. If I just keep on trucking along, if I just keep on going, then everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be well. And, eventually I'll get my pot of gold. Spirit doesn't work with eventually. Spirit says you already have your pot of gold. I have given you everything with nothing missing, and I will never withhold anything from you. The ego, on the other hand, says, I got to wait. There's delay. There's this, there's that. We don't need it. So we have to be really willing, coming back to spirit, okay, and especially when it comes to relationships. I love that you brought this up, Corey, because we can let spirit have our relationships as well. It's not just other situations. It's all of our relationships. Relationships with family, relationship with friends, relationship with an object, relationship with a career. I mean, and I can be super honest, when I was at KinderCare and then I left, I was lost. I felt like I was alone at sea and I had nothing. I didn't have floaties. I didn't have a pool noodle. I felt so lost. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, spirit, like I'm going to have to give this over to you because I don't know what to do, that I saw for myself where my ego had said, this is what you are. And it did not put me. I chose to allow myself to go into this little box of outcome that it had made, which said, you're going to work at KinderCare for the rest of your life. You are a lifer. That's what that's just what we called people who worked at KinderCare for a very long time. You were a lifer. You were just there for life. That's it. And my ego had that outcome. And then when that shattered, when that dream, when that outcome was no longer possible, the ego didn't know what to do. It was like, oh, I have nowhere to go. I have nothing to do. I have nothing to cling on to. I have no more identity, because I had put all of my identity into that one little thing. And I had this outcome in my mind that I was just going to work until I retired at KinderCare. That was just the outcome my ego had projected for me. And so once I gave it over to spirit, I said, okay, spirit, like this whole thing happened and I'm willing to give it over to you. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. And those are 3 words the ego hates. I don't know. Hates those words. But spirit loves those words. And you want to know why? Change isn't hard. Change is just different. And that's something I learned. Change is never hard. It's just different. And the reason it's different is because we don't have a firm, quote unquote, understanding of something. And when we don't understand something, that's where fear comes in. That's where a lot of fear of change arises from. It arises from, I don't know. And again, who's really afraid? Ego. Your spirit isn't afraid. Your spirit knows that you are constantly unfolding. You're constantly in motion with life and evolving into more of the embodiment of the truth of who you are. And again, that's what spirit's doing all the time. It's helping us to uncover these false beliefs, these false judgments, these false perceptions. That's what it's helping us to do on a continuous basis. And I'm just going to let you all know, and I don't know if you all can feel it or not, but there was a shift just then as I was talking. I felt this energetic shift just kind of come in. So always just interesting. I always just like to kind of throw things out there, when they randomly happen. And that could mean, a spirit has come. It could mean there's an ascended master. It could mean a channeled message is on its way. I never really know what those shifts are, but there was just a very brief kind of shift in the energy there. So it was really interesting. I just wanted to share that with all of you. So we have to let the spirit really have these things and just giving it over and saying, okay, use this for your purpose. And the purpose is always what? The purpose is always to help you embody more of the truth of who you are. It may seem like you're going through challenges. It may seem like the world is just like beating you up, but the world isn't doing that. That's the big key. The ego wants us to perceive that and say, well, you want to know what? The world hates you. That's it. You're alone. Why? Because you're separate. That's what the ego wants you to believe. Funny, because I didn't know used to be my logo saying at all times, yet when trying to know, everything is when I feel beat up. Exactly. So we just let go. We surrender. We say, Spirit, I'm handing this over to you. Now and what that kind of does is that creates this ability for Spirit to inform you. Because this was something that I found as well, Corey, was when I was trying to figure everything out on my own and come up with outcomes, come up with plans, come up with agendas, where was there room for Spirit? There was none. I was so focused on, this is my plan, this is my outcome, this is how it has to go. Where was there room for Spirit? Because Spirit waits on welcome, not on time. So it's going to wait for you to say, hey, I'm ready, and really mean it, not just be like, hey, I'm ready. We have to mean it with sincerity and really mean, I don't know what to do, and really mean with all sincerity, I'm willing to give over this aspect or this part or this, whatever, over to your purpose. And the purpose is for healing. And I'm going to repeat that like again and again and again and again. That's all you're going to keep hearing, because that is Spirit's purpose for everything. It is for your healing. It is for the miracle. And what is a miracle but an inner shift from fear to love? And that is all that Spirit wants for us. It wants us to shift that perception. And it's going to help us to do that. Now, there may be steps that you need to take, and that's fine. But you follow the guided steps, not the should steps or, I have to steps. It's more like, okay, when we feel, and this is something, again, that I've learned along the way is, and it actually came from, it was a channeled message, and it came through so strong. I was sitting in the car with my mom, and she was telling me about this coworker that she had. It was an old boss of hers, and who had given her a job, helped her learn how to do things above her pay grade so she could get paid more. It was wonderful. Oh, well, thank you, Juliet. And so, really helped her with that. And then all of a sudden, well, it wasn't all of a sudden. And then she was telling me that he had cancer. She was like, oh, and he's got cancer, and, it's just too bad. And all of a sudden, just out of my mouth, I said, don't you dare feel pity for that man. I said, when you feel pity, you are saying that whoever you're looking at is less than the holy, precious child of God, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole. And if you don't like the word God, that's okay. You can use Spirit. You can use unconditional love. You can use whatever you want to use for your higher power. I just say God because that's what feels good to me. And so I said, that's what you're doing. That's, in truth, that is what you are doing. And I was just like, I was surprised. I'm like, where did that come from? And my mom was like, well, I can actually really see, if I'm pitying him, then, am I really loving him and doing things for him because I'm coming from love? Or am I doing them because I feel like I should, or I have to, or, whatever the case is. And I was like, exactly. So where are you doing it from? Again, if we're doing it from ego outcomes, look, people, I'm doing something nice for this person. And even though I'm not saying that, anyone is doing it on purpose, we're not. We're just unaware. And so when we come up to someone and we see that they are suffering, that's okay that we see their suffering. We're not, we're not going to look past it and be like, oh, you're the holy, precious child of God and your leg is broken. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to look at them. We're going to look at that and be like, okay, in our minds up here, okay, do I want to use this for the ego's outcome, which is to show me I am separate, to show me that I'm just a body, to show me that illness is possible, injury is possible, delay is possible. Do I want to use this situation for that? Or do I want to use it or do I want Spirit to use this situation and say, okay, Spirit, use me, guide me, use me, move me in all ways today. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. Maybe you sit down next to them and you're like, hey, and they have this broken leg and you're like, okay, let's elevate this. Let's call this person. Like, do you need, and asking those questions, but letting Spirit really guide the actions instead of being like, oh, you poor, poor, pitiful thing. I am your rescuer. I am now here to rescue. Look what a great person I am. And doing it for, those quote unquote egoic reasons or egoic outcomes instead of doing it from Spirit's purpose, which is, again, for your healing and that other person. So something that I think a lot of people get confused on, and I know I was confused on it for a while there as well, was, not seeing it. We look at it, we see it, we face it head on. We do not shy away from it. We do not try to, put on rose-colored sunglasses and be like, la, 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 everything is love and light. Oh, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. We look at it, but we look at it with the eyes of Spirit. That is where we look with, not with the eyes of our ego, because the eyes of the ego are going to be like, oh, like, that's terrible. That's awful. That's it. This person is paralyzed forever. I mean, how many stories have we seen of people supposed to be paralyzed? How many stories have we seen of people like, they'll never walk again? Bam. They walk again. They're talking. They're waking up from comas and they speak French or, whatever the case may be. Corey says, well, I used to love to give and be there for people without judgment. Yet when I was judged and mistreated when I needed help. And again, we have to look at that and say, okay, well, what's my story there? What's my story? Why? Again, because I am seeing this. And if I'm seeing it and I'm seeing it from, I am separate from others, or I am seeing others as a detriment in my life. Again, it doesn't mean that we condone their actions. It doesn't mean that we're saying it's okay that they mistreated us. But what we are saying is I am willing to forgive this situation because forgiveness is a way to happiness. And actually, in A Course in Miracles, it says forgiveness and happiness are one and the same. And saying, you know what? I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing to let go of my judgment and the belief that if I help people, that I'm just going to get mistreated, that people are just going to step all over me. And again, it may not be a conscious belief, but it's something that you have to pay attention to. And, that's just what we have to do. It's all about awareness. It's all about attention. It's all about focus. Where are you putting it? And when these situations, when these seeming challenges arise, who are you going to look at it with? If we see the person with a broken leg, we are going to, okay, Spirit, I'm going to go over there and be like, hey, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? I'm going to be saying that in my mind, but I'm also going to be calling 911 at the same time, and in my mind as well, Spirit, like, right now, what I'm seeing is a projection of my own thoughts and beliefs that I'm just using broken leg because it's just something that I think we all can really imagine very well, which is, and so what am I going to be saying in my mind? Okay, this is my belief that we're just bodies. This is my belief in injury. This is my belief in terrible injury. This is my belief in pain. This is my belief that I am not eternal. This is my belief that I could be changed, that I am not changeless. This is my belief in body identification. I mean, there's tons of things. And as I'm just naming those, and you can just be like, and I forgive, and I forgive, and I forgive. Because you're in that moment, you're doing your best to help that person, but you're also helping yourself in those moments. Are you always going to remember to say that? No. Can you do it afterwards? Of course, because Spirit doesn't see time the way that we do. We see time as continuous, as constantly like there is past, there is present, there is future. Spirit sees time as Doctor Who would say, one big ball of wiggly, wobbly, timey-wimey. It's all happening simultaneously. Everything's happening all at once. There's that movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I think that's the name of the title of the movie. And again, it's just, everything is always happening simultaneously with Spirit. And that is the biggest thing we have to remember is I want Spirit to use this for its purpose. I want Spirit to use it. And what is Spirit's purpose? Healing. And that's what I want above all else. I want the healing of my mind. And that's something else when it comes to miracles. A lot of people, including myself, think that, or thought, or think still, that miracles are about like the shifting outward, like the whole situation just poof, heals and it's done and there we go. The reason that the miracle happens is because you are willing to shift your perception from ego outcome to spirit purpose. You are able to go from fear to love, because that is what spirit is. It is love, and its purpose is love. Its purpose is healing. Where egos, on the other hand, is separation and outcome in the physical world only. And it says, and this is something that the ego will tell us again, like I talked about in the beginning, that all my happiness is out here in the world. Once all the conditions of the world are meeting the ego's standard, my life will be great. Well, how many times have we gotten to life is going to be great and we're sitting there just being like, okay, where's the next? Like, what's supposed to happen next? We feel stagnant. We feel bored. Why? Because we are a part of life, and life is constantly unfolding. And so we are constantly in that unfoldment process as well. What are we unfolding to? We are unfolding into the truth of who we are. And so we have to let spirit guide us in that unfoldment, because we have taught ourselves very wrongly. Not on purpose, but because we didn't listen to the teacher within us. We instead just listened to the loud blabbing voice in the corner that was like, hey, you should do that, and hey, you should do that. Instead of that small, still voice that was like, hey, why don't you try this? Or hey, why don't you try that? Or what about this? Or what about that? We just listened to this loud, screaming, blaring voice that, if we didn't listen to it, made us feel anxious, made us feel hesitant, made us feel like we were making the wrong decision. And that's its whole ploy. It's fear. So again, when we break this down, we can allow ourselves within any situation to choose to focus solely on the outcome that we think is best. We understand now that that is ego-based, because it is based in our own perception, our false perception of what we think and what we think we know. Once we are willing to release what we think and what we think we know about a particular subject or about a particular person, about a particular situation, and say, Spirit, I don't know what to do, but I'm willing to hand this situation over to you. And I ask that this be, that your purpose be fulfilled. That's what I'm asking. And I'm doing that with sincerity. The situation's going to unfold for your healing. And are you going to see miracles? 100%, because you're choosing to let go of fear and you're choosing to focus on love, which is limitless. It has no limits. Fear may seem like it's limitless, but it has a limit. Eventually you get to a point where you're like, I just don't care anymore. I think we've all been to that point where we have a big fear about something and it seems to just overwhelm us. But then all of a sudden it's just like, I don't care. I don't care anymore. And that's why fear is limited, because not only does it limit us, but it also has a limit. And that's why love is limitless, because we are limitless. So if we go to the limitless, we're limitless. If we go to the limited, we're limited. So that's the choice we always get to make. Limitation or limitlessness. Which one are you going to choose? So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. Corey, I'm so glad that you get it now. And I'm so glad that you are here to have this wonderful conversation with me and inspire all of these different ideas and help me to explain things in a deeper, more profound way. So I really enjoy that. Ron, I started saying this affirmation you gave me a while back, and I've seen a huge change. Some opportunities happen, and this is so on point. Thank you. Corey, I am so glad that I was able to be of service to you today. I'm so glad that you're using whatever random affirmation I may have given you, and maybe it's one of my favorites, which is from Abraham, everything is always working out for me, or one of the many other ones that I just happen to blurt out from time to time, but that is my favorite. Everything is always working out for me. So again, I thank you all for joining me. I thank you all for being here. If you're interested in learning more about me or my services, feel free to visit my website. If you're interested in joining my free group on Wix Spaces, you can follow the link below. In May, I will be having my friend Tiffany on with me. And she and I will be doing readings together on a live Zoom call. So if you guys are interested in, maybe having readings or just live Zoom calls, follow the link. And it does, just because you do join the group does not mean that you are guaranteed a reading, but you can at least, get in the queue for it and so forth and so on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will talk with you all soon.